welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about Harold Bloom, anxiety of influence by Harold Bloom. Okay, so when Harold Bloom develops the anxiety of influence, he fundamentally challenges the traditional idea that literature progress smoothly through inspiration and admiration. Instead, Bloom's presents literary story as a side of conflict where every new poet must struggle against the overwhelming presence of air of earlier strong poets. So the central argument of the anxiety of influence, Bloom argues that the influence not confronting it is anxiety producing a young poet with confronted with the greatness of predecessors, experiences a sense of balladness, the feeling that everything meaningful has already been said. The creates psychological crisis. The poet imitates uh, the originality. The fact reject the cannot escape influence. Therefore, originality is not natural. It is constructed through struggle. Agon creative struggle. The heart of the Bloom's theory lies Agon meaning, conflict or contrast. This is not a conscious rivalry but an unconscious psychological struggle between the ineffable young poet, the strong poet predecessors. Unlike earlier critics, Bloom does not see tradition as supportive. He says it is something that must be resisted and overcome. And the Freudian framework, Bloom borrows heavily from Sigmund Freud's, especially the Oedipus complex, just as a son must symbolically overthrow the father and to establish identity, a poet must symbolically defeat the predecessors to achieve originality. This transforms literary story into a psychological drama, family romance, a struggle for identity. Revisionary Ratios. Mechanisms of misreading. Bloom's most original contribution is the idea of the poet is achieve an originality through misreading the predecessors. These misreadings are not mistakes, they are creative distortions. He describes 6 stages of revisionary ratios. Clinamen or uh, survey. The poet deliberately deviates from the predecessor's path. It is corrective move. The earlier poet was almost right, but complete it differently. This is the beginning of the independence. And the Tessera, completion and antithesis. The poet both continues and contradicts the predecessors. They accept the earlier vision, but perhaps reshape it with a new meaning. Influence is acknowledging but transform. Kenosis or emptying. The poet creates break in continuity by reducing the predecessor's authority. This involves a kind of self-imitation to escape domination, awakening of both self-predecessors, and demonization. The poet seeks a higher source of inspiration beyond the predecessors. They elevate their own vision as more powerful, authentic, reflection of influence and new sublime. Askesis, self-purgation. The poet undergoes self-reduction, isolating themes uh, from influence. This creates purified independent identity, a movement toward solitude and uniqueness, and a process and uh, Apophrades, return to the dead of the dead. Here is the most complex stage. Here, the new poet becomes so strong that it appears a predecessor is influenced by the successor. It is calm, completely preserved, reversal of influence, a symbolic victory over the past. The rejection of traditional ideas of influence. Before Bloom, influence was seen as respectful imitation, cultural continuity. Bloom rejects this completely. For him. Influence, burden, traditional obstacle, creativity, rebellion. This makes his theory radically different from critics in the material. Okay. So the criticism of Bloom, while powerful, Bloom's theory has limitations. It focuses on the male poets and ignores gender perspectives. It reduces literature to psychological struggle, ignoring social historical context. It overemphasizes and underplays collaboration of influence and inspiration. So the significance of the theory. Despite criticism, Bloom's theory is highly influential because it redefines originality as process, not a starting point. Highlight the interconnection of literary works, introduces psychological literary criticism, explain how literary traditions evolve through tension.